afternoon, everyone. Welcome back to Basscast Radio. I'm your host, Brian Carter. Guys, we got Mr. Thomas Aarons with us from Fishing the DMV, and Charlie Davis, local stick right here on Smith Mountain Lake with us tonight. Our special guest in the house. Geek can't be with us tonight, but hopefully we can get him back next week. But guys, what a weekend it has been around here. Smith Mountain Lake, the Basscast wrapped up its first tournament event. Chad Green and Johnny Martin won out with 25 pounds. So congratulations to them on that win. Also, guys, thank you to everyone that came out and fished with us this past week. We had a lot of brand new anglers, a lot of brand new boats. Thank you for being a part of the Basscast and supporting us right here in Central Virginia. So thank you, and welcome to the Basscast Tournament Series. Also, we had the Bass Nation of Virginia, Mr. Bass. Congratulations to everyone that cashed a check there as well. And then we got the man with us tonight, Mr. Charlie Davis. It was a team effort. One of the winners from the CAT event from this past weekend. If I remember correctly, Charlie, CAT has one more event left for the 2025 spring season because we had to cancel an event.
That is correct. It just got rescheduled. That's what it
just got rescheduled. So there's one more event left. But guys, if you have not been sleeping under a rock, and I know a lot of you guys have not, because I told him before we came on, 100,000 people have seen this 10-plus pound bass that he caught out of Smith Mountain Lake. Guys, the lake's on fire. This is 10-pound number 2. Yes. We had another 10-pounder early.
Jared Warden?
Yeah, Mr. Jared Ward.
Yeah.
Yes, we had another 10-pounder, and now Charlie has caught another 10-pounder. We had Chad Green on last week talking about the tiger bass. What's going on at the lake. Guys, if you haven't checked out that episode, you need to head on over now and listen to the Jared Ward episode as well. 3 great episodes that you can listen to on Basscast Radio. But I want to run it by Thomas real quick and see what the heck he's got going on.
I'm busy as ever. I'm going to be, spoiler warning, I'm dropping down from 5 episodes a week to 4, just so I can kind of, as we're getting into fishing season, and I actually will be allowed to leave the damn basement and go out and fishing, so I don't want to record every night. So there's that. And then I got permission from the Virginia Department of Wildlife Resources to start publishing the recordings I've been doing. If you guys don't know, I kind of signed a little deal with them. I'm doing all of their fishing reports for all the major rivers and, of course, Smith Mountain Lake. And we started this week with John Odenkirk doing the shocking survey studies for the Potomac River, the Virginia portion. So we would go through frame by frame what creeks so far have the best bass population, the biggest bass, the best hydrilla based on the data they've collected. Really, really cool study that he did.
So what bodies of water is this on, or is it many different, or is he just covering the whole thing?
So he's covering anything that is Virginia jurisdiction.
Okay.
Awesome.
Guys, I love these episodes, and I need to check it out as well, because we love learning here at the basscast.com. And guys, fishing at DMV is where it's at. Thomas Lockmore, he's good at this shit, I ain't gonna lie, and he has a lot of great interviews where he's talking to a lot of these biologists, and they are in the know. How many of these do you have a lot already in queue that will be coming out?
We have 8 that I started to record in October, so they're all done. If it's a major river in Virginia, there's a biologist that did a sampling on it, and so we talk about some of the best sleeper rivers for smallmouth, largemouth. It's insane. Roanoke River, you name it. There was a biologist that did a study on it, and we're gonna be feeling those out through the year. And what's a good connection to this is also Mr. Wilson, who's the biologist for Smith Mountain Lake. We did an episode with him talking about the shocking studies from last year tournament results, and that one, based on what the department told me, is going to launch before the Major League Fishing event there, so they can promote it a little bit better. A little spoiler there is he didn't think a 10-pound bass was possible this early, and we recorded that in January, and then 3 weeks later, Jared smoked his 10, and then Charlie, you smoked yours. So it's pretty cool.
Yeah,
the lake is on fire, people. I'm not gonna lie. The tiger bass. You guys all know we had Chad Green on, and we talked about it. What are we, like 7 to 10 years with the tiger bass? I mean, I can't keep track of time. I ain't gonna lie, because so much happening. But the tiger bass have been in there for quite a while. Last year we saw the 8+ pounders in there. We saw a lot of guys catch the 8s. And it just skipped over to the magic number 9, and we're at 10. I mean, holy crap. All right, guys. But before we get into this nice show, we got to talk about Money Saver Lure Retriever. Tired of watching your expensive lures good God, disappear into the deep. I'm having a rough night here, guys. Afraid to cast where the big ones hide. Introducing the Money Saver Lure Retriever, the ultimate solution for rescuing snagged lures from the lake bottom. This powerful 2-inch, 3-ounce pocket-sized miracle is engineered for discreet hit, plug, knocking efficiency. Catch with confidence into the trophy fish hideouts. Small investment, huge returns. Save hundreds on expensive gear while fishing where others fear to cast. No special skill needed. Just keep it in your pocket until you need it. The Money Saver Lure Retriever, your portable lifeline in snag-filled waters. Available now at moneysaver.store. So check out the Money Saver Lure Retriever, everybody, sponsoring tonight's event. Also, if you guys are watching YouTube, you guys see it below. I really want to have Basket on. We're going to let Basket kind of talk about this more. Basket's YouTube channel got hacked last week. Guys, you want to talk about the opposite end of Charlie puking because he caught a 10-pound bass? I know Geek was puking because he had 86,000 followers that disappeared within a blink of an eye. You're talking about 7 years of work just gone. He has got the channel back. Please head on over right now. Check it out. Also, subscribe to the channel while you're there. I know he put some. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, just for people that don't understand the YouTube world, imagine if somebody hacked your bank account, drained it, and then shut it down. That's basically what Hank went through there. And they didn't just like steal it, they deleted it. So that's scary as heck when that's part of your financial structure.
It's like watching Bitcoin disappear or some shit like that.
Yeah.
It really is, because it is a digital currency. I mean, it really is. I mean, they do pay us money. I mean, they write us all a check. But it is like, watching a digital currency completely freaking disappear. So, guys, we've got Charlie Davis on with us. Charlie, thank you for coming on. Nice show. We got Charlie. I ain't gonna lie, you guys. Charlie's teamed up in the living room. We got him up in the living room. He had internet issues. He's a neighbor, so that's awesome. I'm blessed right here to have a lot of great anglers that are around us, Charlie. We got Derek Hudson that lives right down the road a little bit. Yeah. It's not too far away. And I know a bunch. It's like all in this area. So
Brian, how far do you live from Smith? I don't think I've ever asked you that in a year and a half.
I am from the state park. I'm 1 hour and about 10 minutes from the lake.
Wow. That's not bad at all. Okay.
No. From Crazy Horse, I'm an hour and a half. From Bugs, hour and a half. Lake Anna, 2 hours. So it's pretty awesome where me and Charlie live, that we can jump on a bypass or 460 or whatever and be at a lake in no time.
Yeah. Wow.
I mean, some people get up there, spend the night and have to spend the night. Me and him, for the most part, if you wake up by 4 o'clock, you can be at the lake ready for the tournament that morning, pretty much at any lake in this area. So we're dead center and blessed to be that. But, guys, tonight we're going to talk about Charlie's 10-pound bass on a beautiful Smith Mountain Lake and the giants it has produced this spring. And I guess it's spring, and it hadn't even sprung yet. We're still not even the spring. Well, we just turned spring, didn't we? We're close to it.
Well, that's a good question to kind of tee this thing up. Charlie, what is your definition of spring?
I go with the calendar. Whenever it comes up on the calendar, the first day of spring, that's spring. Now, as far as fishing goes,
that's what we need to know.
I feel like this week at Smith Mountain Lake is the transition from winter to spring. I feel like the winter bite has been on up until this past weekend, and I feel like this week with the warm weather, I feel like we're going to see some changes in the fishing.
We had a full moon, right? Yeah, we did have a full moon. All right, got to remember our almanac. So yeah, that's all the things are aligning there.
Yeah.
let's talk about the day. Let's talk about the day itself. Start off for you guys in this event, and then we'll go into the actual catch. So do you hear me?
Yeah.
I can hear you.
All right, so let's talk about the day and how how your day and the morning started off for you all.
Okay. Yeah, absolutely. Well, I went out. Let's back up to Friday. I went out
All right.
to practice. I have been fishing pretty much a tournament every weekend the whole entire winter, and for the most part, the bite's been pretty close to the same for us.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of FFS. I know people hate to hear that, but you're in the wintertime, your FFS game better be strong. But it was went out Friday and really struggled most of the day. And at the end of the day, I found a little. I didn't find the area. It was just an area that I haven't fished in a long time, and I scanned it and saw some bait and some fish. Made one cast, caught a 4-pounder, and got out of there. So I didn't really know what we had going on there. So the day of the tournament, I knew I wanted to start there because I didn't know what to expect. Usually something you find in the afternoon, you just don't know if it's going to be good in the morning. So stopped on a really good spot first thing in the morning. Caught 2 fish, I think. 3-pounder, 3.5-pounder, something like that. Went to this spot, the spot that from Friday I caught a 4-pounder on at the end of the day, and I caught 2 really small fish. I would say 2 to 1.5 to 2 pounds. So that gave us 4 fish for I think 11 pounds, somewhere in there, 11 pounds. And when I was weighing the fish and putting it in the live well, the boat had gotten close to the bank. So I got up front on the trolling motor and backed off the bank. And as I was backing off the bank, I happened to notice pretty much a humongous blob on my screen. And I mean, almost right up under the trolling motor, to be honest. So I backed off thinking, this fish is gone, and whatever it was, which I assumed it wasn't a bass.
Right.
But when I turned the trolling motor back around to face toward the bank, the fish was still probably 10, 15 foot in front of the trolling motor. Made the first cast to it, didn't do anything. Second cast, he came up and ate it. And
wow.
Still, not knowing, didn't really know what the fish was until it came into the net. It was bulldogging up under the boat, and my net man, Shane Mills, he's the man, because it was he ended up having to flip the net around and scoop it down up under the gunnel of the boat, and he got it. So yeah,
that's awesome.
I mean, we were both screaming like little kids.
Go ahead, Thomas.
So yeah. Two questions. The first one
Sure.
is, without giving away specifics, but when you said you ran up on the fish, for people that don't know with forward-facing sonar, what generic depth? I'm assuming it wasn't like 3 feet and you ran up over top of them. Were you more where you had some depth where when you ran up on top of them, you could back off and it didn't spook him?
Honestly, I was probably, I would guess 15 foot maybe.
Okay, so he wasn't
the fish
like right up.
The fish was suspended, but it was only suspended, I'd say 4 or 5 feet up under the trolling motor head.
That's insane.
To me, is insane that fish just didn't take off.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's when it's your time, man. That's insane with a fish. Do you think, was it sunning itself, you think?
It must have been. I mean, the water was fairly clear, but it was early in the morning, so it's hard to say. It's to describe the area. It was a secondary point, real rocky with the brush pile on the end of it, but a real steep point that goes out. The rock vein goes out into probably 20, 25 foot of water. And that's what I was really targeting, was that deeper rock.
Yeah.
And the fish was up there shallow. So, very surprising. I wasn't expecting at all.
When you actually set the hook and you got him close to the boat, when did you start thinking like, I actually did a thing? Like, oh my God.
Honestly, not until my partner lifted the fish out of the water in the net, and he started screaming. He swore it was a 12-pounder. He screamed it probably 3 or 4 times. This is a 12-pounder. I've had a couple big fish I've caught in the past, so I was pretty sure it wasn't a 12, but I was thinking more around the area of 9 pounds. But I do weigh my fish as I fish the tournament. So when I put it on the Bubba scales, it was 10-17 on my scales. So
dude, that's the best part of this story we haven't gotten into yet, that you're a Cali guy and so this is like it's okay, it's just a 10. Like I that's crazy.
Yeah.
How do you think the lake is setting up for these giant bass? I mean, we've talked to Chad, we had talk about the tiger bass, but how do you think this lake is setting up for these giant bass, and do you think we're going to see more of them in the future?
Well, to be honest, I'm just a dumb fisherman. Chad knows a lot more about the ins and outs of the F1 stocking and everything. But I do keep up with the stockings and everything. And no doubt, I'm not sure if that fish was a F1 or not, but I think it's been 7 years since the first stocking. So maybe it's the first stocking,
right?
One fingerlings from that, but I don't really know the growth rates to know that for sure. Chad at the tournament did get a fin clip of it to give to Dale, so cool. Possibly we'll find out. I don't know if he's they're going to do that or not, but I'm very interested to see how that goes. But
let's talk about the history as you being an angler fishing that lake and your time on the water and your time seeing the transitioning throughout the last couple of years, because you've been fishing. How many years have you been fishing Smith Mountain Lake? How many years have you been here?
Well, when I was a military brat, so when my father retired from the Marine Corps, I think we moved here in '88. I was in high school. I was a sophomore in high school when I moved here, and right away started bass fishing. I actually grew up in Lynchburg. I fished with Cheeseburger's son a lot.
Yeah,
Scott Roberts. I fished with David Dudley's son. We graduated high school together, so we actually lived probably about a mile from each other, and we met at a local pond, and he taught me how to use a bait caster and everything. So when I was in high school is when I started bass fishing. Yeah.
So what made you get that tournament bug, man?
Really, when I was in high school, I got into I joined a club with Cheeseburger's son Scott. And we joined the Lucky 13 Bass Club, which was full of hammers. I mean, Ed Smith, Cheeseburger, all those guys that all of us looked up to, the old timers that were, to me, still, I feel like they're some of the best fishermen that ever fished around here. So they got, just watching them and fishing with them got me into it, really.
Yeah, that's awesome. The lake, like you were talking about earlier, it is seeing a transition. We've gone last year. We had numerous 8-pounders, and now we're seeing 10-pounders in 2025. It's kind of crazy to see that kind of jump. I mean, you kind of wonder why we haven't seen the 9-pounder yet. Because we've kind of got used to seeing some 7s and some 5s. The lake has always been known for some nice looking 5-pounders and 5-pound smallmouth bass as well.
Yeah,
but for kind of making that leap up to 10 pounds, I mean, not diving into it that hard, but what do you think is making this transition as an angler who's been fishing this lake for a while?
I honestly, I can't explain it other than maybe possibly the F1s. I did last March. I actually caught a 9.5-pounder. And then right at the end of the year last year, Aaron Scott caught a 9.5-pounder in one of your tournaments, if I recall.
Bass tournament.
Yeah. So, yeah.
And I am really of the belief that, again, this is very cliche, but you never catch the biggest fish. And so if somebody catches an 8-pounder in a lake, there's probably a 9. If somebody catches a 9, there's probably a 10.
Yeah.
Because it's very, very, very rare you get the perk. So I don't know, Brian, if you're like Dot, famous bass out in California.
Yeah.
That fish was caught multiple times, but you had the perfect conditions of that lake being the right size to where you theoretically could go out there and catch that fish multiple times. There's one bass that's in Occoquan Reservoir that is the same way. It's been caught multiple times. It is so hard to be able to have lightning strike like that. Occoquan Res is 2,000 acres. And over 6 years, it's been caught 2 or 3 times. What is Smith? 20,000 acres. So I guess my point is, I think there's always been a couple of big fish in there. What I think you're now seeing is this tipping point of how many there are. The F1s have something to do with it too. Again, this is all my hypothesis here. The other thing is the blueback and all the bait. I think the blueback and the pelagic nature of a lot of these fish has changed it a little bit. And you're starting to see them put the feed bag on.
Yeah, I agree with that. The the pelagic fish that nobody really touched on as well as we are now with the forward facing. Those fish were untouchable for the most part, and now they're not safe anymore. So I could see that being a correct hypothesis.
And if there's let's say there's 6 guys that are really good with scope.
Yeah.
You have to play the probability game of them being on the right spot. Now let's make it 10 guys, 20, 30. I think as that number increases, you're going to see. So examples Lake Anna. All of a sudden, there were a couple of young kids, I think it's High Pole Guide Service, that got all their scope stuff a couple years ago, and they just broke almost 40 pounds in multiple tournaments on Anna.
Yeah.
Does that mean the fishing all of a sudden got good? Is it a combination of that and just there's more people now that scope and know how to scope? It's probably multiple things.
Yeah. Forward facing is definitely the biggest factor there, I believe.
Yeah.
How's forward facing changed your fishing, man?
To be honest, a lot. I lean heavily on it at times, which and I'm not so sure it's a good thing. I've definitely done well with forward facing, but a great thing was, the weekend before last, I couldn't get bit using forward facing, so I turned, struggling really bad trying to catch fish with it, and I just quit looking at it, went to the bank and caught 21 pounds and came in third in the last catch. So that was a breath of fresh air to not have to use it. We tried it again this past weekend and it didn't work. So, but yeah.
Let me ask you this about the forward facing, and we've kind of talked about that and getting spun out in tournaments. And I know it's a little bit less here because yes, it's 100 if you guys get in all side pots, a couple $100. We're not talking about thousands of dollars,
right? Yeah, but
at the same time, it is money. There's money on the line, and Cat does pay out a heck of a paycheck, and Charlie helps out with that and does a lot with Kevin regarding that. But we talk about getting spun out and using this forward-facing sonar, and you only get so many hours on the lake, and if people diversify their fishing, like you were just talking about a minute ago. And we just wrapped up an NPFL event last week, and we saw 2 Dirty 30 bags, and it was no forward-facing sonar whatsoever, and it was just a bunch of the guys, I ain't going to say all of them, but 40 plus, 45 age plus, fishing the way that they like to fish, and they were cashing checks.
Yeah.
And we're kind of wondering now, are we training, are these kids just learning the AI version of fishing? And nobody's teaching them the old school version, and they're screwed if they don't catch. It's like I know how to fish a jig, and that's it. If I don't catch them on a jig, I'm screwed. It's the same thing with forward-facing sonar.
Yeah, I agree with that. I agree with it. Listen, if as much as forward-facing has helped me learn bass behavior, and to me, deep down, it's not fishing to me. I do miss not having to use it. Not, if there was 2 tournament trails on any lake right now, I would lean more toward fishing the one without forward facing. It's just more fun. Even if you don't catch them, you're probably not going to catch them as good as you would with forward facing, but it's just more fun. That's not what fishing was supposed to be like.
What makes it more fun?
I think it's the unknown. You don't exactly know what's going on. You just got to go by your instincts. Years ago, before forward facing, you pull up to a point to fish it and you don't get a bite, and you just think in your mind, oh, there's just no fish there, which 9 times out of 10, there's almost always fish there. And just
So
didn't know.
You were a lot less depressed is what it is.
Yeah. Yeah. Just knowing the fish are there and can't get them to bite, that's just, it's just, that part of it is not fun either. It's fun catching fish anyway, but if I had to choose between catching them with scope or without, it'd be without.
Mm.
But we're wondering if we're wasting too much time with this. I mean, like you were just saying there. Yes, pretty much every point on a lake is going to have fish. I mean, it might not be a big fish, but it's going to have a fish. Yeah. And you kind of wonder, are we wasting too much time? Or, I mean, okay, I see a whole school of fish there. And yes, it might be 1 or 2 big ones there. But, like you said, in the past, it was a run and gun game. Now you run, you see a bunch of fish, and you try to catch them.
Yeah. Yeah, it's more like hunting, because it's a lot of, I'm not even going to cast to this fish because it's not big enough. I know it's not big enough. Let me look around and try and find one bigger, one worthy of casting to. So you're getting more selective with your cast. I mean, you don't even make casts until you see fish, all of that.
And Thomas brought this up last week, Thomas, about the fish, the biology, and just picking these big fish up off the beds, and kind of make it wrestling with the environment itself, just kind of, like you said, hunting to catch these big giant bass.
It is interesting. It is interesting. I mean, and we're in the throes of the evolution of technology and angling. There was the same, I'm not going to say to the degree, but there was the same issue when side scan became a thing, and people were giving Steve Kennedy, Alton Jones, and all those people, oh, this is terrible what they're doing. And early adapters, and this is with anybody in any field, business or whatever, early adopters always get rewarded. And so you saw how the people that hopped in the bandwagon early, what'll be interesting is once it's established and everyone's good at it, how much of an advantage is it then? If only one pitcher knows how to throw a curveball, it's huge. But when everyone knows how to do it, does it lessen it? I don't know the answer to that, but time will tell.
I agree with that. Yeah, time will tell.
I talked to so many anglers, some of the retired anglers right here in Central Virginia, and forward-facing sonars and run people away. I hate to say it, it's really has, we're in a period right now. We're in a time change, really. I mean, it's a period where a lot of the older anglers said, hey, hell, my first boat didn't cost $4,000. Well, I don't want to put $10,000 worth of electronics on it, 2 screens and a couple of them, the transducers and all that stuff. And they're just saying, hey, we're just going back to regular fishing and just going out for a Saturday. And where now, Kevin actually mentions this like weeks ago, that you got to really learn a new type of fishing as a whole. Absolutely. And if you don't have the forward-facing sonar, you're not going to cash checks. Now, that's not all the time. Mm-hmm. Please, guys, that's not all the time. Like, Charlie was talking about there, some days it just ain't going to work.
Yeah, and it's always, I said this a couple of times on my show, on other people's shows, it's going to be regional based too. Yeah, if you're down at Smith Mountain Lake or Cherokee, it's going to play more. Come up to my neck of the woods on the Potomac River, smallmouth fishing on the Susquehanna, smallmouth fishing in the Shenandoah. You ain't doing that shit. It's just, you're just not. And so Mississippi River, if you want to go national. So there are places where it will have less of an advantage, but there are some places where 100%, I agree with you. It's going to give you a massive advantage when those fish are offshore. You don't have a lot of shallow cover. And they're really prone to be fished that way. So is the problem then the lakes are just set up so well for them, and we need to adjust where the tournaments are? I don't know. I know that there are some lakes around us that are so pressured and they're so bad that when forward-facing sonar came around, people were shocked that there were big fish in them because they didn't know that they were setting up there. And so, I mean, I feel like I could literally try to argue both sides of it. I really could. If you want a great example about fishing pressure, people in Japan love it. If you watch any of those dub stuff over there, technology-wise, they love it because there's 6 fish in their country. And so anything that gives them advantage, they enjoy. Yeah. And if you want to go no sonar, you can do that because, it's America and you can pick. If you want to go to Chick-fil-A, go to Chick-fil-A. But don't go to Chick-fil-A and ask for a cheeseburger. And now that we have the NPFL here, you can pick that, because so far, based on what happened at Sandy Cooper, so I almost had a stroke there. Yeah. It was a great event. It was a lot of fun.
It was an awesome event.
Fun to watch.
Yeah. It was a blast. If Kentucky Lake wasn't catching insane smallmouth, I would have watched the Sandy Cooper thing more, but I'm a smallmouth junkie at heart, so that was really fun to see.
Yeah, because, I mean, like you just said, the NPFL event was awesome. I mean, it was great. But also, you know, the Major League Fishing deal, their new update that they did in 2025, you get 1 period a day where you can use your forward-facing sonar.
Interesting.
Which is pretty interesting, because you got to go out and catch all your giant bass, because pretty much you've seen what the rest of the anglers are catching after that. 2 pounders, 2 pounders, and 2 pounders. So, I mean, you know, you have to pick the period. So it kind of does give it a little bit more of a strategery, kind of like the Big Bass Tour we have on Smith Mountain Lake. It comes back each and every year. That's a little bit of strategy in that as well. And the NPFL has, the Major League Fishing's added that with where you pick which period that you want to use your forward-facing sonar. So it's an interesting year, guys. It really is.
Yeah, I agree with that 100%. 100%.
I mean, it's, you know, we followed here at the Basscast, and Thomas, I don't know if you were on when we started interviewing a bunch of the Wild Wild West anglers, and they were the first ones that did. They did catch and release. They did catch,
the hybrid
release,
format.
and they did inches, and they did all that stuff together. So, I mean, there's a lot of different ways of throwing strategy in this thing.
Yeah, and I will keep saying it till I'm blue in the face, because I'm going to go on record. I'm the first person in the nation to say this. The catch weigh or catch measure release is like buying Amazon was at $1. It's going to happen. It's building momentum, especially when states start doing these crazy laws like Pennsylvania does, where you can't fish for half the year. Maryland incorporates it. I think that's going to get more culturally acceptable in the zeitgeist, especially because kayaking is blowing up. And culturally, that's how a lot of people are getting into fishing, is through kayaking. So that means you're used to catch photo release. Once the technology makes it so where it's just easy for anyone to do catch weigh, I don't see how anything's going to stop that from taking more of the pie. I could be wrong.
And that's very true. I mean, like you said, though, I mean, it's going to be, I mean, even this week, guys, we were looking at it. We have over 60 kayak anglers fishing this weekend in the first Bass Nation event of the 2025 season. So, I mean, the kayak side of it has gotten huge.
Mm-hmm.
And that was just the other day. So I don't know if they've added more anglers have stepped up since then, but 60 anglers is pretty freaking awesome for a kayak event.
And I have 8 boats. No, I'm sorry. I have 10 boats in the tournament I'm running on Patreon. And bank anglers, like, it's not limited. So my point is, it's not just kayaking. And I think what you're going to see from a tournament director is logistics. I can sit in my underwear in my living room and judge a tournament. Like, I don't have to go anywhere. So logistics, it's a lot cheaper. So if you're bass, maybe that's why you got into kayaking, because you're like, oh, we don't have to set up a big stage or anything. I wonder how much that saves us on our bottom line.
And we make money.
And when you make money, you can print money, because all that money that you go into logistics, you can pocket.
I don't know if we'll ever see it in my decade of this whole entire kayak bass fishing deal, because, you know, we're still waiting on the technology. We're still working on that. I don't think, I know Charlie will probably say this as well, you know, and this is what Bass Nation did a couple years ago. They went back to where you could have your own partner. Bass Nation, when I first joined, you didn't fish with your partner or any other partner. You were randomly picked. I know there's another group on Smith Mountain Lake. I want to say Smith Mountain Lake Bassmasters still does catch, weigh, and release. They do. They do. Okay. They still do. And it's a random pick as well. Is it going to have to be like golf, where you sign your scorecard at the end of the night, sworn by legality that you didn't cheat? So, I mean, you know, it's one of those things that going to that is really going to have to be a lot of technology involved.
Yeah.
So.
And cheating, I will argue that, like, just get out of there with that stuff, because you're going to say, well, it's cheating in kayaking. Let me show you Clater Lake. Let me show you the walleye tournament. Like, there's As long as there's money involved and humans exist, cheating will be there. It just will.
Absolutely.
It's just that you have to crack the whip, or you got to really crack them when they actually cheat, not a slap on the wrist.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's just a lot happening. I mean, we'll see what goes on. I mean, we're earlier in the season. We know we know these tens were caught. The lake is probably going to be really in a transition the next couple of weeks. The weather around here is warming up. I think I was told the other day low 40s still in the back of most of the pockets. Is that correct, Charlie?
From the pockets I went in, some of the shallower pockets was actually warmer than the main lake.
Oh shoot!
Yeah.
So the pockets are starting to warm up. So we're in a transition, and we have we got a moon this weekend, don't we? Don't we have a phase coming up, everybody?
Full moon right now, I believe.
Yeah. Also, we didn't bring it up yet, but the Smith Mountain Lake is probably the dirtiest I've ever seen it for.
Yeah.
I mean, it's bad. I wouldn't say bad because I feel like it's pretty good for the fishing in some areas with the color, but yeah, it's probably the dirtiest I've ever seen it at the bridge right there, and that was 3 weeks ago, and it's still almost as dirty as it was when we first had the storm.
That is crazy because we always bring it up and we're like, Smith Mountain Lake never freezes. It never gets dirty. The water moves so daggone much. And here we are, after a lot of rain we had locally. I mean, a whole lot of rain, runoff, tree damage, storm damage. And now Smith Mountain Lake's dirty and it's weird.
Yeah, that's really weird to see it.
I'm about done here. You got anything, Thomas?
What do you miss about California fishing?
Just the chance at a big fish. You mentioned Dottie. I fished that lake a bunch of times.
Really?
Miramar. I was stationed in San Diego, so we had access to a lot of big fish lakes down there. Lake Miramar, if you recall, 21-pounder caught out of that lake. Wow. I believe I saw a 20-pounder there, and obviously I didn't get it to bite, but there's just some gigantic fish. And everybody thinks when Smith Mountain Lake is clear that it's a really clear lake, and it just has nothing on those Southern California lakes. They're just 20. The visibility is 20 foot plus at those lakes.
That is so crazy.
What kind of techniques over there? Not technique. Let me rephrase this. How small would you go on your line over there? Like when you hear these Looney Tunes stories of people throwing 2, 4, 3, 5.
Yes.
Is that BS or is it legit?
No, it was legit. When I fished there, I fished. Let's see. I gotta think here. From 94 to 98 is when I was stationed in San Diego, and even back then, that was before we knew anything about the drop shot. We used what was called the Mojo rig, and all it was a cylinder weight with a hole through it, and you slid it up your line and put a rubber band in there, kind of like a Carolina rig. And we used that on like 4-pound tests. We would use 2 to 3 inch small hand poured worms with little bitty mosquito hooks, and that was the deal out there for catching those big bass.
That's crazy, man. That is so cool.
It really is crazy. It's like a whole different world. It's a whole different world anyway, but it's a whole different world.
Yeah.
Were you able to bring any of that back with you when you started, when you came back here and started fishing Smith Mountain Lake again? Because, we all know that Skeet Reese brought the giant swim bait back in 08, 09. And, there's a lot of Chinese baits that were showing up in California that weren't showing up here. Because we're in the South. We're always a little behind. I don't want to say slow, but behind.
Yeah, actually, some of the baits, and I still have some of them, which the fish, when I first got here, I would use some of that, and I just kind of started running low on it and didn't think I'd be able to replenish it, so I just quit using it. But I do have a box of Southern California baits that I've held on to over the years, and just have never pulled it out to use them since '98 when I first moved back. Or
Holy
excuse me.
cow.
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah, not long ago.
For you guys, me and Thomas both had a lot of expos this year, and we talked to a lot of different product makers. And yes, guys, there's so much on the market. There's so many worms. I mean, but the new thing that I saw this year at a lot of the shows, and you'll see more in 2026, by the way, everybody. A lot of these companies are going back to making some of that stuff.
Yeah.
They're going back, getting the patents, and getting the molds and whatever needs to be purchased, and they're going back and not reinventing the wheel, but just going back and the classics, I guess you can say,
Mhm.
or they're starting to come out with these. So I mean, uh,
Mm.
this girl in the coffee shop I was in, I told her I liked her T-shirt. It's GI Joe, guys, and she said it's vintage, and I was like, holy shit. I was like, I watched the original, okay? So yeah, a lot of people, the vintage baits are starting to come back because we do have so much overload of to this new product that's been out the last couple of years. So maybe some of the
Yeah,
stuff will show back up, Charlotte.
every time something new comes out, you kind of ditch what you were using
Yeah.
to jump on that bandwagon, and then you catch fish on it, and you kind of forget about, and then next thing you know, you've got a tackle store in your basement, like I've got that, a bunch of stuff that my wife keeps telling me I'll never ever use again, and she's probably right. And I could probably take it out and catch fish on it.
It's crazy how that cycle kind of goes through, like every 5 years. We talk about spinner bait. It died for a little while. Now spinner bait's starting to come back. A lot of these baits go through cycles.
Yeah.
And
that's how it goes, because you can't fish everything at the same time, and
No.
what's old becomes new again.
Yeah. Yeah. And then, now all you need, if you have forward facing, is just a jig head and a minnow.
Yeah, I was gonna say jig head and a minnow. That's it.
Unless you live near
You can
me.
get, I pour my own jig head, so I buy a pack of minnows. I'm good to go.
Dang. I got one question. Where do you see the lake heading? Like I said, for a guy who fishes Smith Mountain Lake all the time, do you
Well,
believe?
I do fish it all the time, and I have gotten. I feel like I've got a knack for catching them in the winter. Spring, I usually fall off a little bit until probably about May. So I'm looking forward to trying to break that curse and catch them in between that transition period. So we'll see how it goes. But yeah, I'm looking forward to this weekend, the Angler's Choice.
Yeah.
And I'm pretty sure it's going to be changed. We'll get out there. I think official practice starts Thursday
Mm-hmm.
and Friday. I'm not going to be able to get out there Thursday, but I'll get out there Friday, and I'm looking forward to seeing what's changed, because absolutely I know it's been changing, and see if I can figure it out. I'm excited about it.
Hey,
Cool.
one last question. You caught a 10-pound bass. Yes, it's probably one of the largest bass ever caught on Smith Mountain Lake. But and you said you're screaming, which everybody probably heard you, Dig, on it. But how did the emotion and the feel that you can say I caught probably the largest bass ever on Smith Mountain Lake?
Yeah, I think I was telling you
time.
before the show. Yeah, that there's been talk about it for years. Sooner or later somebody's going to bring one into weigh-in, and I never thought it would be me doing it. I'm not a big fish guru by any means, but I mean it's just the excitement at the weigh-in. I texted my wife and told her to come to the weigh-in because I had a 10-pounder, and everybody knew that she was there for a reason. So everybody stuck around for the weigh-in, and when I pulled that fish out of the bag to weigh it, everybody's snapping pictures. Like it almost felt like a celebrity or something. It was insane.
All right, last
That
question.
is awesome.
Yeah.
As a man with many fish at that size, was there one that sticks out in your mind where when you caught it, the day was over? You just stopped what you're doing? Because I've always told people, if I'm fishing a tournament, especially up here in smallmouth country, and I catch something that's 7 pounds, the tournament's over. I'm leaving. We're done. I'm calling the department. I got a big one. This is now the important thing. Did you ever have that moment where you're like, this just happened?
No. I think I think I said earlier that when I caught that 10-pounder, I think we had 10 or 11 pounds, and it jumped us up to 21. And I know historically all winter long, it's been 21 pounds just doesn't win. And I was thinking, that we had to. I've never fished so hard in my life after I caught that 10-pounder. It was a very stressful day, knowing that we needed to add it to that weight to have a chance to win.
What about one of your other fish?
Well, I caught a 12-pounder in California, and that was, I want to say, in probably 93, 94. It was when I first got out there. I didn't know anything about Southern California fishing. I'm fresh from Virginia with 20-pound big game on my bait caster, black and blue jig. And I drew this guy that was pretty much a local, and he laughed at me for what I had tied on. He said, "You're not going to catch anything on that. You got light line and small baits." And I said, "Well, it's all I've got to fish with." And so we went fishing, and that was the only bite I had all day, and it was a 12-pounder. The guy I fished with, I can't recall his name, but he never even caught a fish.
Oh, wow.
But we got to weigh in. He said, "Well, it wasn't that great of a day, but at least you'll get a big fish check." And I didn't even get a big fish check with a 12-pounder.
Wow.
Yeah.
That is so freaking crazy.
Yeah. Yeah.
That is so crazy.
Yeah.
All right, guys, before we go here, Money Saver Lure Retriever, everybody. Tired of watching your expensive lures disappear into the deep? Afraid to cast where the big ones hide? Introducing the Money Saver Lure Retriever, the ultimate solution for rescuing snagged lures from the lake bottom. The powerful 2-inch, 3-ounce pocket-sized miracle is engineered for direct hit, plug knocking efficiency. Cast with confidence into the trophy fish hideouts. Small investment, huge returns. Save hundreds on expensive gear while fishing where others fear to cast, everybody. No special skill needed. Just keep it in your pocket until you need it. The Money Saver Lure Retriever, your portable lifeline in snag-filled waters. Available now at moneysaver.store. Check them out. Order some today. They got many different colors to choose from. Pick up some Bass Cast Green. They got that color as well on their website. So head on over and pick some up. Like I said, if you're watching us on YouTube, it is scrolling across the bottom. So head on over now and check out the Money Saver Lure Retriever today. And guys, we all saw them baits at the shows, everybody. And, some of these Japanese baits, Charlie and them tell you, and even some of these hand-painted and hand-poured baits, swim baits, gosh, we're talking $50 to $200 to $250 for some of this stuff.
Oh, yeah,
so,
at least.
So if a small investment can save you that much money, you should pick up one today. Everybody should have one with them. Pick up 4 or 5 of them. Give them away at Christmas time, a birthday, a young angler. An angler sucks like me. I ain't gonna lie. It don't get them out of the trees, but it gets it out of the water, okay? So pick up one today, and like I said, keep them in your tackle boxes, in your boat, your kayak, whatever you fish out of. So moneysaver.store. Order them today. And I want to thank them for sponsoring us right here at Basscast Radio. Charlie, man, really appreciate you coming on tonight. Thank you so much for being a part of the show. And again, congratulations, a chance of a lifetime. I'm sorry I couldn't have been there. Alicia was there covering the event. Special thank you to Alicia, because I was at Lake Gaston covering the Bass Nation of Virginia. And Charlie told me before we leave, Charlie was supposed to have fished the Bass Nation of Virginia event, but he was so high up in points. He said, "I'm going to fish the cat event because I could win the cat. If you win the points, you win a little bit extra money." And then he caught the bass of a lifetime. So, dude, this could have been like a zero or a hero moment right here, man.
Mm-hmm.
So,
congratulations.
Well, guys, Brian, I want to say thank you for having me on, man. This has been fun talking fishing. I love talking fishing anytime. So I definitely appreciate it. Thomas, great talking with you as well.
All right, guys. Appreciate y'all listening. We'll be right. Guys, This episode drops on Monday morning. If you guys don't know, I hope you do know. Yeah, you're wide awake. The Bassmaster Classic is right ahead. So it's going to be a jam-packed week ahead. We're going to have content. We're going to be doing some lives. We're probably going to do another live watch party again on Sunday for the final weigh-in of the Bassmaster Classic. I don't know if we're going to do the whole thing. They do a lot of talking, and I don't really – I just want to know who won. But we're planning on doing one of those. So it's going to be a jammed-packed week ahead right here at thebasscast.com. And we're going to do our best to keep you in the loop. So have a great night, everyone. Thomas, you got any parting words before we roll out?
Not much. Y'all know the deal. I pretty much drop an episode every freaking day. So go take a look at everything we got going on. Got a crappie fishing tournament that just finished up. They have the new Bugs Island record for crappie. I think that's dropping next week. So that's pretty cool.
Wow.
So yeah, go check that out. The crappie world, man, the more people I talk about that looks like fun to get into. So yeah,
Absolutely.
Go check that out.
All right, guys. Have a great night, everyone. And we will see you guys on the flip side.